This episode of RSR is brought to you by iZotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Spectra 1964, and Grace Design. These are tools that I use every day in my studio, from the Spectra 1964, STX 600, 100, and 100D, and Native Instruments Complete 26, to iZotope Ozone and RX, and the central hub for my studio, the Grace Design M701 audio interface. Follow the sponsor links in the show notes. Grab my free mixing course at mixmasterbundle.com, and remember to like this video and subscribe on YouTube because it's a great way to help support this show. Now, get ready to rock.
Any guitarist that is into effects, you start hearing all these really spacey terms when you're talking about guitar effects, a space echo, a lot of galactic themes and just the names of your gear. And why is that? And when someone says that music sounds spacey, what does that even mean, right? It could be a drug reference. It could be a reference to like a stylistic thing, or it could just be an effect. And if so, what is that effect? Are you talking about echoes? Are you talking about reverb? You might be talking about some modulation.
Which effect pops into your head for the word cosmic?
Well, for cosmic, I mean, generally, I'm probably not much different than other people in that the first reaction is reverb.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing because space is actually a vacuum, right?
Right.
But the way that we typically represent that feeling is with the inverse, with the opposite of a vacuum, with maximum cavernous space, because we visually see space as this empty thing, like like the Grand Canyon or something.
Right.
Right.
Right, but it's actually just, it's a void of nothingness sort of thing.
Exactly.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Howdy, Rockstars. It's your host, Lid Shaw, and welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Kevin White, a Nashville-based audio engineer, musician, documentary filmmaker, longtime educator, and world's premier Astro-Musicologist. Very cool title. Kevin is a Telly Award winner also and a Grammy voting member with a uniquely diverse background that spans radio production, studio work, and even connections to the aerospace world. Early in his career, he engineered for SiriusXM and on stations like Bluegrass Junction and Willie's Roadhouse, while also building a deep portfolio across jazz, psychedelic, bluegrass, and garage rock. For the past 20 years, Kevin has served as Director of Career Services at SAE Institute Nashville, helping guide the next generation of engineers and creatives entering the industry. Alongside his studio and teaching work, he's contributed musicology essays to the NASA Apollo Flight Journal and continues to develop documentary projects, including his series Songs of Apollo, exploring the intersection of music, space travel, and culture. Kevin has been on the show before for episode RSR568, where we got a chance to talk about his musical background. Please welcome Kevin White to Recording Studio Rockstars. Kevin, my brother, my man, are you ready to rock, dude?
I am so ready to rock. Actually, I think I might be ready to jazz.
You could be, man. When you came today to do this, you showed up with another beautiful guitar.
Right. I'm shifting gears. I'm going into the jazz world now.
Yeah, dude. So, what was the guitar that you brought? It was
a Guild Manhattan.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Reminds me of is it the Gibson L5?
It's similar. Yes, similar. It's like the 60s Dwayne Eddy guitar.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Now, that's the thing that I know about you is you've got like a deep, deep love for music and particularly guitar, surf rock, and it's funny how, the intersection of surf music and country music where we are here in Nashville in the hub sort of does a beautiful crossover with your interest in space, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all twang, right? It's all twang. And you'd be surprised, how the tones of Leo Fender cross from one world to the other, because they're really not that different. Put a different beat, you put a different, twang on the voice. But, a 1-4-5 progression with a clean guitar, how different is it really?
Yeah. Do you feel like the space program sometimes is like not that different from slapping a pickup on a stick of wood?
Well, I mean, there's science and there's creativity, right? Art and science and that endless cycle.
Yeah. So to clarify a little bit, I mean, of course, this show is about making great records in the studio, but the beauty of what you're doing is you found this incredible crossover of doing exactly that, and also your interest in the space program and NASA, and you've discovered that there's like a whole world of music related to that.
Absolutely.
Give us an introduction to like, you've already kind of given us your background in the last episode, but maybe in this one, give us like the story arc of your interest in the space program and how that's all coming together.
Yeah, well, being the son of a pilot, I grew up around aviation, and we lived in Huntsville for a little while, and we used to have these really cool space programs that would come on television. I was a little kid, so I'm surprised I even remember this, but it was definitely foundational. It definitely stuck in my brain, and driving every day by the Saturn V rocket that's just out there, by the highway. And my mom never took me. I always wanted to go, but she never took me. So it was always one of those things that's dangling in the back of my mind. Like, I want to be a part of that, whatever it is.
And that's what I see when I'm driving down 65, right? Going south.
Yeah. So I was talking about, there's also, when you go across the Tennessee-Alabama state line. Actually, they just took that one down, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, and that one might have been more of a rest stop or something.
Right, exactly. Area, right? But then I was talking about the one that's actually there at the Space Flight Center.
Amazing. Which I haven't been there. I haven't seen the actual Space Flight Center.
So I grew up, being just fascinated with space, but also being really into music. And, there's strange correlations between those two things. Any guitarist that is into effects, you start hearing all these really spacey terms when you're talking about guitar effects, a space echo, a lot of galactic themes and just the names of your gear. And why is that? And when someone says that music sounds spacey, what does that even mean, right? It could be a drug reference. It could be a reference to like a stylistic thing, or it could just be an effect. And if so, what is that effect?
Yeah.
Are you talking about echoes? Are you talking about reverb? You might be talking about some modulation.
Which effect pops into your head for the word cosmic?
Well, for cosmic, I mean, generally, I'm probably not much different than other people. And the first reaction is reverb.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing because space is actually a vacuum, right?
Right.
But the way that we typically represent that feeling is with the inverse, with the opposite of a vacuum, with maximum cavernous space, because we visually see space as this empty thing, like like the Grand Canyon or something.
Right. But it's actually just it's a void of nothingness sort of thing.
Exactly. Plus, you have to think that our actual experience of that void is always within a capsule, which is actually pretty noisy typically.
So that comes up. One of the things that you have created recently is this incredible short film called Concert to Cosmos. And it's about, we'll get into that more, but it's about your experience and the acoustic evolution of MSI DFAT.
Maryland Sound.
Yeah, Maryland Sound, direct field acoustic testing.
You got it, yep.
Yeah. Man, I'm ready to join up. Where do I get like wings, or do I get like
what you get a chevron?
A chevron? Right. That's what they call it. That's great. But so rewinding a tiny bit. Yeah, like rewinding a tiny bit, the emptiness in space. No one can hear you scream in space, right? That comes from
the Alien.
Alien, the first movie. Right. Incredible film, too, with great music and sound.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many great science fiction films that have sort of shaped our perception of the cosmos. And what's interesting is following that over time, sometimes it is horror-based, right? Sometimes it's sort of religious, right? Sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes it's exotic, right? It gets represented in different ways, and it should. But what's interesting and something we talk about in Songs of Apollo is following examples where at the beginning of the 60s, there was more of a horror theme, but by the end, that had kind of disappeared.
Well, yeah, then it's Captain Kirk. Then it's like the romantic theme.
Exactly. Yeah, the perfect example is the Ventures, the surf rock band, one of my all-time favorites, probably the favorite. And, at the beginning of the 60s, they had this album called Ventures in Space, one of the first concept albums, period. A lot of classic rock guys were influenced by this album because of all these effects that it had. But basically, it was a lot of cover songs, just a couple of originals. But a lot of these were covers of horror themes, right? They were commissioned to do another space album in the early 80s. But what's interesting is at that point, there's no longer any horror themes. They're more inspirational, right? It's like the mood changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So you have to think, we're at the beginning of what you might call spacefaring culture. You have seafaring culture, which has been developed gradually over thousands of years.
From spacefaring to spacefaring.
There you go.
Right? Isn't that kind of, it sounds like that's what that was sort of. It's like, and black and white, earliest space stuff is like, it's scary and unknown. Uh-huh. And by 69, when we're landing on the moon, it's like, we can do this.
Exactly. So then, you get through the Apollo-Soyuz test project, you get through the Voyager, and then the space shuttle. By the space shuttle era, there's a certain optimism, There's Morning in America. And by that point, it's a real optimistic time. And it reflected in the music, right?
Yeah.
And how space was portrayed. Now, there's an interesting arc that happens is by the 90s, there's a dystopia that happens.
Right.
We don't go back to the moon, and people stop trusting the government. And everything's sci-fi movies are like The Matrix, and it's, you know what I mean? There's a certain dystopia that comes. But you can follow futurism and space exploration, and sometimes those two are synonymous, and often still are as you go throughout history.
So what's fascinating about that is, as you talk about these, you're talking about a history of space exploration, but you're talking about it in terms of emotions and feelings, right? Mm-hmm. And as we know, the most effective way to provoke emotions and feelings in anything visual is through music.
Exactly.
Right?
Hope you're listening, NASA.
And so that means translation, again, because this is a show about making music in the studio, that means the music that you can make around these topics in films, or even just to evoke these moods or perception of location in music, is done in the studio.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff, when you think about those different eras of emotion, like what comes to mind for you sonically around those?
Well, so let's start maybe, and the thing is, you have to think this stuff goes way back. It goes back as far as human history, right? This stuff goes all the way back to the Aboriginal song lines, for example. Just kind of set some example. Literally, the Aboriginals, they had something called song lines where they would use astral navigation and music together. They would sing songs about the constellations that they would sing that they could see, so they would have the ability to navigate to the next town. It's a perfect example of music and science together from the very beginning, right? So
because that's even before naval travel, because that would be like the next level of technology from foot travel.
Right. So, looking to the cosmos as early humans and that being reflected in song, it goes all the way back. But even in that example, science was there as well, right? So, when it comes to what feelings, for a lot of early humans, when you think about antiquity, a lot of it is going to be really religious. You're talking about a lot of this stuff crossing over with spirituality. And then, you get into the era of the Greeks, then you can think about the harmony of the spheres, and you can, Pythagoras, and he had this concept of the actual oscillations of the planets having harmony, and this harmony is trying to bring a sort of quasi-scientific approach.
Right.
And, and then it's maybe a little more intellectual at that point. And he's measuring intervals on strings and vibrating them and figuring out what these vibrations are, right? So it's maybe a little bit more of a...
Is that where we get introduced to the concept of, what is it, 432 hertz instead of 440 hertz?
We could have a long conversation on that type of stuff. But yeah, absolutely. That's where the relationship of intervals really comes into play, at least in the Western world. There's, from the Islamic world, there's other examples. But anyway.
That's one of my favorite things about you, by the way, is because, we've been making music together, and you'll just bust out these, you're like, well, this one is an Egyptian tuning. And I'm like, wait, hold up, what? So it's really cool to hear you talk about this.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole world of history in musical scales, right? Yeah. Each culture over history typically has a unique scale that they have adopted, or scales. In the Western world, we have our do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? Which you can subdivide by, 7 to your different modes. But different cultures will essentially have one of those, and then plus or minus some different notes. It makes a whole different feeling, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into the whole world of micro-tuning and the notes between notes, and then that's a long conversation. Yeah. But point is, things like musical scales really come into play with the flavor of the feeling of a culture, right? If you think of Japanese music from, maybe a couple hundred years ago, it still comes into play with kind of how we initially think of that culture, or even in the modern era. And it's, a pentatonic scale, but it's missing different notes than ours are missing, right? So back to your question, though, about how this plays into the feeling of space. Every culture has their own unique version of stargazing in their music. And, for me, just like anything, it covers all the emotions, and you can find that all throughout history in popular culture. There's so many examples. We call someone a star. I mean, we don't think of this cosmic connection to that, but where'd that come from? It's so ingrained in us.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. What? Boy, that's really cool. I don't want to go on a tangent, but it's like when I was traveling this year, and I discovered that the word for wave in Spanish is hola. And I was like, oh, hola, like hello. Oh, that's like wave. Oh, that's also like in English. Wave is like wave.
Right.
It's interesting, connections between things.
Yeah.
So what about sonically between these different moods of space music too? Mm-hmm. Does it make you think of different guitars or different effects or even just different tempos? Because for example, one of the things that popped into my head is the movie Gravity.
Okay.
When they're doing that, when the Space Center is coming apart and they're headed down and it's starting to happen, and it was who was it? Trent Reznor or somebody I forgot. I feel like it was a EDM dubstep musician who did it. Apologies, I'll have to look that up. But it's really intense, like EDM style.
I don't remember that particular scene's music, but something about that one that I do seem to recall was the usage of what you would call spectral music. Music where the focus isn't even on a melody or a beat, but on the tonality of the overtones. And that's a really intriguing science-based approach to music that I think we should hear more of. You
mean in terms of just really appreciating the spectral breakdown?
So maybe a common example would be something like a wah-wah, right? Where you're playing essentially an EQ as an instrument, right? And then there's entire styles of music where that is the focal point. It might be a drone, but it sounds like a bunch of different notes because of what's happening in essentially EQ.
Right. Yeah. Native Instruments now brings you Complete 26 with powerful instruments, synthesizers, and creative tools to help you make music faster and stay inspired. The legendary Absynth 6 is back with evolving textures and experimental sounds, while Contact 8 gives you the tools for chords, phrases, and arrangement right inside your workflow. With Massive X Guitar Rig 7 Pro, session guitarist instruments, and premium tools from Isotope and Brainworks, Complete 26 gives you everything you need to create in any genre. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Well, you know, you got reverbs, you got the old spring reverbs for guitar amps, you've got analog, you got echo chambers and that kind of stuff. What space records or artists were recording that would have been echo chamber? That would have been more of that might have been more of the country music that was going into space. And do we need to rewind a little bit and sort of explain again why NASA and music beyond movies? You know, there's more of a there's a closer connection.
Oh, well, I mean, there's tons of connections. Well, maybe I should start with kind of where my professional involvement in this started.
Sure, yeah.
As a contributor, just being a fan of NASA, I was always on the Apollo Flight Journal, just kind of looking at what happened with the Apollo missions and reading about different things that aren't common knowledge, and then listening to all these. They had this big dump of audio that happened about 15, 20 years ago, and you could actually listen, and you can hear these guys bickering, and you can hear them trying to use the restroom, and you can hear all these really very human moments. But then I started hearing music in the background, right? And I started noticing, why am I hearing a theremin song in this recording of Apollo 11? And then I became kind of obsessed with this, and I started emailing people at NASA, like, you've got to include this in the historical record, like the written record of like what they're listening to, because there's actually some implied history here that is relevant. In that instance, it was a Samuel Hoffman theremin piece from a Les Baxter, a record called Radar Blues, right? And it's this wild situation where he brought this music with him called Radar Blues, a theremin tune. And what happens on that flight? Literally, they had a radar issue, the 1201 and 1202 alarms that are going off right when they're about to land, and they're panicking, or they weren't panicking, but Mission Control's panicking. Should we let them land or not? It's because they're overloading the radar. And the song was called Radar Blues.
And it was playing in the background in that moment?
Well, not that moment, but that's what they're listening to up to there.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, how is this lost to history?
Yeah.
I can't be the only one that's noticed this.
That's wild, dude. That's wild. So
that became my introduction into that. And then NASA started using some of my notes that I was sending them. And then they started asking me for help on some stuff.
Oh, that's really cool.
And that's how I got into Astro-Musicology.
Right.
And then I got invited to do an Apollo internship and create some celebration activities for the local planetarium here, the Adventure Science Center. And through that, they wanted me to try to tie together Nashville's identity with what was happening in the Apollo programming back in the 60s. And I was like, if you're talking about Nashville in the 60s, you've got to talk about the music industry. So what's the correlation? And it turned out there's tons of connection.
Wow.
And that became the basis of Songs of Apollo. So first it was 3 15-minute episodes where I was exploring this relationship. And then we played these at the planetarium for visitors for the thing. And it's like, dude, there's so much here. I've got to do more with this. So it ended up being my master's project when I was getting my master's degree. And now I'm at the point of finishing the commercial version. But anyway, all that being said, where this starts is just me being an enthusiast and then finding historical correlations with NASA and the music industry. So it's music that the Apollo astronauts are bringing with them, and why they're bringing different music, and then just weird historical things that went along with it, sometimes intentional, sometimes not, which is worthy of paying attention to. And then there's also the not necessarily just music, but the pro audio aspect of a lot of, say, ISS astronauts come back with hearing damage. A lot of people don't realize that.
Well, that was one of the things that came up in the film that you did too, was just this this idea of, And that actually circles all the way back to no one can hear you in space. No one can hear you scream. And one of the interviews you did, I forgot who it was. You can let us know, but he was talking about having to quiet down the inside of the spaceship. And
Paul Molnar. Yeah,
I think the double entendre was there was that no one can hear you scream in space because it's so freaking loud inside the spaceship that nobody can hear you. It's like trying to yell in the middle of a concert,
Exactly. So they do a pretty good of cleaning up the noise whenever you're listening to, say, ISS astronauts talking to the ground. You can usually hear them pretty well, but every once in a while you can hear whatever noise cancellation has happened. You can hear it cut out every once in a while, and you can hear there's a lot of fans and life support system stuff running in the background.
Right.
A lot of it. I mean, just kind of imagine it's kind of like having a full blast vacuum cleaner going 24/7 for as long as you're up there. And you have, guys, that are up there for up to like a year. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. So coming back with literal hearing damage, that's one example. But back in the Apollo era, according to Charlie Duke, it really wasn't that loud inside. But you did have other issues, like their Snoopy cap. If it gets dislodged a little bit while you got your helmet on, you actually got a feedback loop. It's squealing in your ear, and you can't do anything about it.
Wow.
So point being, there's actually been an exchange of technology between the recording studio and NASA that's been going a long, long time. And some of the current things would be, things having to do with noise cancellation and things of that nature, with the new suits, which are important, but also the new space stations that are going up. It's a really big thing for them to try to quieten it down. And Paul Molnar from Sonus, up in Detroit, was one of my interviewees, had a lot of just intriguing stuff to teach us about how to quiet down at an acoustic environment, which he started, quieting down automobiles, for the automotive industry in Detroit.
That would be a first
and then progressing on to, some of these new space stations. So there's a lot to it where it correlates with pro audio.
Yeah, very cool, man. You think they're going to be putting Atmos surround in spaceships one day?
I don't know. Maybe one day. We'll see if Atmos sticks around even on Earth.
Oh, man.
I love it, but we'll see.
We'll see. First blood.
Right.
Okay, groovy. Well, let's see. Let's rewind a little bit. You recently got involved on a whole new level with this project, too, because you started I don't know what the word is, like, moonlighting or consulting with MSI DFAT.
Right.
So give us an introduction. What is that?
Right. So Maryland Sound is a live sound company from Baltimore. Top tier, big concerts, historical concerts. They're the ones that literally did Parliament Funkadelic's Mothership that came down. They were literally Pink Floyd's sound company back in the 90s when they were doing these massive, loud concerts. And that's where this starts, because they were so freaking loud. NASA approached them and was like, hey, we got this idea. We want to actually replicate the sound of a rocket launch, something we've been kicking around since the 60s, but no one's been close to being able to approach those decibels. But we think you guys are loud enough, this might be worth trying. And founder Bob Goldstein was like, well, I was crazy enough to say yes, and $1 million worth of blown speakers later, they finally perfected it. So along with Polk Audio, which is also another Baltimore company, they were able to perfect a specific technology for their speaker systems where it could withstand 150, even up to 160 decibels sustained.
Right. Because
that is insane.
Right. That's like a lot of speaker movement or something.
To give context, there really is nothing that loud other than some rocket launches and earthquakes. That's it.
Right.
But what's weird now is it's so insanely precise. They can sometimes do acoustic tests where it is just a weld, an individual weld.
And they can project it right at a weld.
Yeah.
It just doesn't mean you can just sort of stand over here just a foot away from it with no hearing protection or anything.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't, but maybe you could. I had the opportunity to go up to their shop when I was shooting Concert to Cosmos and participate in a lower level test. and we were at about 130 decibels just for the shop.
Give us really sort of describe the visuals of it so we can really picture this in our head. Like, what are we looking at? What kind of room are we in? All that kind of stuff.
The thing is, or maybe I'm going a little bit too quick here. So they started as a live sound company. They developed this thing where they can actually replicate the sound of a rocket. So the reason is they want to actually take this on site and place these speakers around whatever the craft is, be it a rocket or an individual component, like a satellite, for example, that needs qualification testing. They have to be tested to make sure they can actually withstand the rigors of launch.
Right, because when the launch happens, it's so loud and there's so much vibration that things could go wrong. And what happens if something goes wrong on a launch?
Well, potentially even death, right? Or millions of dollars lost, right? Yeah. So, the idea is they're able to satisfy a lot of requirements by just doing this a different way. You're able to not ship your craft across the country to a reverb chamber to do your testing, right? So not having to, like, for example, the Saturn V, where I'm from in West Tennessee, there's always people talking about back when they used to ship that Saturn Vs down the Tennessee River.
Right.
People would stand by the side of the river and watch them go by, and just think if every time that you wanted to do something like a test, you've got to ship that craft across the country. And for some of these craft, it's so insane, the logistics, that it just doesn't make sense.
And you'd have to do that test every single time you want to launch it, right? Because every time you're about to do one of these launches, it's such a huge commitment that you can't afford for something to go wrong. So you always have to qualify every test, every checkbox. Did we
exactly
inspector number 567? Did they check off this tail fin?
Yeah. So every single time, and just think, they're literally floating it down the Tennessee River from Huntsville, Alabama, down all the way up through Tennessee, up to the Ohio River, down the Mississippi, all the way around the Gulf Coast, all the way to Canaveral. It's insane, right?
This is the original space travel right there, man.
Literally, So there's that, right? Obviously, it can save millions of dollars, alleviate risk and all that. That's a no-brainer, right? But additionally, you have to think, with the way that they do it, you're able to have a more diffuse field than you can actually do in a reverb chamber. You have certain physics limitations in a reverb chamber that with their system, direct field testing actually is better.
Now, when you say reverb chamber, do you mean anechoic?
No, I mean a reverb chamber.
The new iZotope RX12 is here, bringing powerful new AI tools to help you repair and improve your audio faster than ever. RX12 introduces scene rebalance for separating dialogue, music, and sound effects, plus Stems View for visually editing stems inside your session. You can clean up noisy recordings, remove bleed, rebalance mixes, and automatically trim silence from long audio files in seconds. Whether you're producing music, editing podcasts, or working in post-production, RX12 helps you fix the unfixable fast. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. So they're trying to elevate the sound by activating the reverb in the chamber.
So before direct field acoustic test, before DFAT, what they would have to do is take their satellite or whatever to a literal reverb chamber, these massive reverb chambers that NASA builds and other institutions, where they will blast it with insane amounts of sound. Right. Now, the real reason that they do this is it essentially is vibration testing, right, but it's different than a shaker table. A shaker table vibration test is how most things are actually tested, but there's limitations, right? Most of those only go to about 3,000 hertz, whereas something like a Falcon 9, if you look at the manual or its white pages, it gives description of what you have to test for, and it's up to 10K.
Wow.
Which sounds low for audio engineers from the audio or from a studio background, because we're usually going up to 20K, right? Yeah. But for the sake of testing, 10K is really high.
Right.
But from 3K to 10K, essentially, there was a gap. So this is where they're able to get a test done that better prepares them for what could happen to, like the foil on, like one of these satellites or like little delicate
little things that can get shaken loose, in other words.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fascinating. So, again, to describe the image, you're looking at you're in a huge space, right? And
actually, it doesn't have to be that big. It doesn't have to be that big. It can be any size. But you've got whatever the item is, and then you encircle it.
Can we just call it a rocket ship?
Call it a rocket, right? And then you encircle it with speakers, right?
Which are like huge towers.
Well, all right. So they go in increments of like 6 feet, right? But then they stack up, and they can go up to 60, 100 feet.
That's the pictures that we see in those in the movie that you made too. In Concert to Cosmos, you really show that, and it's so striking. I mean, it's like this. It's like a Stonehenge of speaker arrays circling around. And if you were to stand in the middle when that was happening at 130 to 150 decibels?
Well, when it's like an actual rocket, I mean, it could be 150, 160. When I was there and we did the test and it's on camera, we did 130 just to experience it and put it on the camera. And I'll put it this way. I wasn't standing in the middle of the circle, but I was close to it. I was on the outskirts of it. I had to go use the bathroom after.
Wow. And it's and you have like double hearing protection on, right?
Yes.
You've got like earplugs buried,
and
huge
the buffs,
earmuffs and everything like that. They actually they surgically remove your ears before you do the test. Well, so basically you feel it, but that's also the low frequencies that give you that kind of feeling, right? They said in the film they talk about it like shaking up your organs.
It shakes your guts. It really does.
Wow.
You heard about the brown note.
Brown note.
This is
the black note. This is lower than that.
This is a black hole.
This is the flush note. Wow, fascinating, man. So, what a fascinating thing. So you've got this convergence of, a sound reinforcement company and this whole, high-tech space program and aerospace. And I bet people must have really flipped out about the Pink Floyd connection.
Yeah.
Which one did people register Pink Floyd or what about Parliament Funkadelic?
So for example, I was just in Germany at the world's premier aerospace convention.
In Bremen, right?
In Bremen, Space Tech Expo, and I would kind of give my spiel, and nobody cared about Parliament Funkadelic, but Pink Floyd turned some heads, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny. I had a particular company that chased me down later to hand me a big pile of stickers because their logo was literally the Pink Floyd prism,
Oh, that's great.
Right.
That's
so
great.
There's definitely an appreciation for their industry being represented in the arts. And when it comes to music, I mean, there's not much cooler than Pink Floyd.
Right. So. But they literally named their record Dark Side of the Moon.
Right. Which is not technically correct. And they're the first to point that out. The backside of the moon is not dark. It's the bright side. Someone's blasted with sunlight.
Well, I guess it depends on which side we're looking at, right?
If
it's a full moon, it's maybe dark.
Right.
Yeah, fascinating. And then of course the prism reference in there, they did that intentionally. I guess that evokes the scientific feeling. Yeah, so cool, man. All right, well, so let's talk a little bit about, your experience. So you're making the music for all this stuff you're doing too.
Yeah, so like the film, me and a ragtag group of friends, mostly just me. Playing every instrument, trying to, do like in Concert to Cosmos, which is the featurette, doing my best sort of Pink Floyd-ish impersonation at points.
Yeah, there's some really good like metal. There's like some like the like those sort of raindrops in space kind of sound.
Right. And then I also did some references to Bowie. I don't know if you picked that up from the Ashes to Ashes piano thing with the Eventide effect.
I totally did. Man. I totally did.
Yeah.
funk to funky. It's so good, man. So talk to us a little bit about how did you create those effects and those sounds? What do you reach for? I mean, you're very knowledgeable about guitars and the effects you use and all that stuff.
I have to say, if I was going to give a shout out to a company when it comes to the sound of space, I would probably hand it to Eventide.
Nice. There you go, Eventide.
Yeah, they really capture the essence pretty well.
Yeah. Black Hole.
Oh, well, definitely not just Black Hole, but definitely Black Hole. Yeah. Definitely Black Hole.
Very cool. Now, what about some of the wobbly effects and things like that?
Yeah, so that's also Eventide. I'm afraid I can't remember the name of the patch, but it's a specific one that Brian Eno used to use back in the day and was sort of historic to those Bowie sessions.
Oh, nice. Part of the H3000 stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, groovy. And then were you, so how did you go about recording that? Because again, keep tying it back to the studio. I'm making a record. I think I want to do a space sound. Maybe I don't have that effect pedal, but I've got these great plugins. Did you just sort of mic up your guitar, do a direct guitar, and then just use the plugins in the computer to use that, or were you using synths? Instruments?
The only thing that I always do is I don't always do anything. I don't know if I phrased that right, but I try my best to never repeat myself.
That's
right. I always want to do something a little bit different. But obviously, as a guitarist, it's real easy to fall into the hole of just playing guitar chords and writing stuff like that.
Right.
But quite frankly, that does not typically lead to the spaciest of sounds, right? Typically, it's better for me if I start on a different instrument. Lately, that's starting with the bass guitar, maybe with a little echo on it, right? Getting some drums that have a certain
it's usually
certain feel to
mid-tempo.
it. Right. Yeah, usually mid-tempo, right? And then flavoring in pad-like instruments, which could be all types of things. And when I say all types of things, the film that I did before this one was about Nikola Tesla, and I was tasked with making a soundtrack that was with all sounds that existed in his time period, but weren't necessarily used together. So essentially electronic instruments, but with the context of a folk band from Serbia in like the 19-teens.
Wow. Cool, man.
That's right. So I got into this habit of sort of taking samples from esoteric noises and putting them together and playing, MIDI instruments out of it, contact instruments.
Super cool.
So there's some of that type of stuff. But getting back to the space part of it, though, there's a really brilliant musicologist I look up to that's in the film that kind of breaks down what is space music from his perspective. And it kind of goes back once again to early man. And he's like, if you think about humans walking, and we start, humming and singing along, it's typically duple meter, right?
Duple meter.
Right.
That sounds like a guitar pedal that you would own.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what that would do.
Right next to your strike fit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So what happens when you take out the rhythm? Okay. It's free floating, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, melodically, what happens when you get away from the strict notes of, say, the major scale, right? So you end up with a free-floating and tonally free-floating music, right? Yeah. So how do you apply all of this? I mean, so on one hand, you have the radio program Hearts of Space, for example. Mm-hmm. So there's sort of the new age space music. That's one incarnation of that, and it makes sense with his description, right? Which is sort of born out of the German krautrock of the 60s and 70s, and then kind of graduates more into the almost easy listening world, right? That's one version, almost meditative music, right?
Yeah.
And then you have other expressions, space disco, and it's got a beat.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It makes me think of like the cantina in Star Wars. You know? It's not quite disco, but still like,
Right. And it can be all different instruments, right? But a lot of it does follow the history of electronic music.
Yeah.
They're not married, but they definitely are related, which the history of electronic music goes back. There's a website called 120years.net, and it literally follows 120 years of electronic sound.
Oh, cool, man.
It goes way back. But a lot of this, and a lot of the metaphors that were used for what was at the time futuristic music was space metaphors. It's just so common. It's just, and it's such a common thing. It was surprising to me that there weren't more resources or films about the usage of space as a metaphor in music, and why is this so common, and how do these things tie together? And over the course of digging so deep in this stuff, I start realizing, really what we're talking about is the relationship between art and science. Mm-hmm. And this strange correlation, and through the prism of music and space exploration. But it's like these two things that go together. So think about like Star Trek.
Yeah.
And all of the technologies or things that they sort of prophesied, right? It's not because they were, tuned in to something in particular. It's just they actually thought about things that when they happen, how is it going to happen? And not just them, but any science fiction writer. They have the opportunity to visualize something that they know will eventually happen. So when it happens, how's it going to happen? And then you start filling in the blanks. Technology fills in the blanks, And on Star Trek, it was a little watch. For us, it's a phone. But same thing, right? You get the idea.
It's like my new little Apple Watch, man.
There you go.
Except this has just been a paperweight on my wrist all week.
Right. I miss watches.
But yeah, I can talk to it. I can use it as a TV remote. I guess that I forgot that they had a watch in Star Trek. I think of the tricorder.
Oh, right.
It's like it's a flip phone. It was the earliest flip phone. Beam me up. Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional-grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Howdy, Rockstars. We're back now for the jam session, aka the second half of the interview. My guest today is Kevin White, the world's premier Astro-Musicologist and a badass guitar player and record maker. Join us here at Ready to Rock Studios. Kevin, are you ready to jam?
I am very ready to jam.
Jamming seems really appropriate for space music,
right?
Too.
Especially you with your Bonnaroo background.
That's right.
The whole jam band thing.
Yeah, of course.
Improvisation.
And we did. That used to be a thing we do. We'd finish a long day in the studio there, and then a couple of times we just got everybody, hey, let's go jam in the studio, and we do, and it was so much fun. I'm of the opinion that the biggest thing that kids learn from music education, is improvisation, right? So when you teach a kid how to play music, don't focus so much on playing it right. Focus on teaching them the scales, teach them the chords, and see what they can do with it, right? Because I'm telling you, just from me having a kid that's now a musician, I didn't sit down and teach him individual things so much as he was in a space where music's always around. He can pick it up or take it, or put it down whenever he wants. And he learned to improvise naturally. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing that, in working in, audio education, that I wish more people realize is the real takeaway that carries over way beyond music is you learn to improvise. And just think of in your life how many times you have to improvise on the spot. And the thing is that music gives you the confidence to improvise in your life, just because you already know what it's like to go out on a stage not knowing what you're going to play and just playing it, right? You've built the confidence.
Yeah, big time.
And people that can do that, they can also go up and maybe give a speech or talk to a group of people. You know what I mean? It builds this ability to improvise.
Now, that's related to what you do for work right now at SAE.
Yeah.
Right? Can you want to give an introduction?
Sure,
to what
sure.
What
Yes, I'm the director of education, director of career service. All right, edit.
Got it.
All right. So I'm the director of career services at SAE Institute. And
let's say that again, because career, make sure it comes out clear.
All right. I'm the director of career services at SAE Institute. I've been there a long, long time at this point. And basically, my gig is helping up-and-coming audio engineers get their foot in the door in the industry, right?
You give them that ability to improvise and
hopefully so.
Hopefully
so. That's part of it. It's changing a mindset often, right? For me, it's taking them out of the mentality of being in a strict system and learning to flow, right? Learning to take what's out there and make the best of it. And, it's one of those things. I like to talk about jazz just because I think it's such a great metaphor for life. But it's no different than, a jam band, right? It's that ability to improvise.
Yeah, big time. Okay, so now to that point too, I'd love to talk to you about your process of writing songs and writing songs for the songs of Apollo film, for Concert to Cosmos. And related to the studio, you have your own home studio set up, as well as you've actually been using the studio at SAE to get some of these great sounds. So maybe talk a little bit about that and talk about the songwriting aspect.
Yeah, so typically, I'll have a scene that has some theme, and I feel like it needs a certain feeling. I'll usually have some type of temp music. Sometimes I'll literally put temp music on, like, say, the timeline in Premiere. Often it's just more kind of in my head, or I'll play it on my phone while stuff is playing, and I'm like, okay, that works. And that will give me sort of an idea of the type of music that it requires, right? From there, it's a matter of kind of making my own version of that feeling, not necessarily like these chords or this. Maybe it's a similar scale, right? Or maybe it's using similar instrumentation. But whatever that feeling was, trying to create something with that feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's fun ones. Sometimes I like recreating some of the beep and bleep noises of technology, which back, say, in the 50s, you had these lab coat musicians from RCA and these guys that were using gear that was designed to track Sputnik to also make albums for RCA, right?
Wow.
And trying to recreate some of these sounds that they're making with these giant rooms full of computers back in the 50s. That's a really fun one, right?
Yeah.
And that's not traditional songwriting, right? I mean, it's sort of a collection of sounds, but then how do you make that musical?
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, songwriting is about conveying a mood, an emotion, a message, a feeling, a sense of space, a sense of pacing, a sense of, what's your heart rate when you listen to this, what's your mood. And those are all things that you're creating. And what's cool about it is, a lot of times we go into the songwriting with this idea of like, oh, what should I write about? Oh my gosh, I'm pulling my hair out. I don't know what to write about and everything. Yeah. And when you have a scene to start with, it becomes a really great exercise in like, here you go.
Right. Some direction.
Fit? Yeah.
Sometimes just in life, what we need is just a little bit of direction, right? So as a creative, the best thing you can have are some limitations.
Yeah.
Because limitations, whether you like those limitations or not, they do give you some direction, right? So the analogy I always like to give students when we're talking about this concept is imagine, like in a movie, let's imagine you're in your spacesuit up in space and you're just in the black void of space and there's nothing around you. While you, in one way, you do have ultimate freedom, you also can't do anything. And why can't you do anything? Because you don't have anything to push against.
Right.
If you just had one rock right there that you could push against, okay, now you have some momentum, right? You have something to give you some direction. You might be able to go any direction other than that direction because there's a rock there, but at least now you have some place to start.
Yeah.
So artistically, having some limitations can be a really good thing, right? But then having a goal is a good thing. But then at the same time, don't get too stuck on the goal.
Right.
The happy accident, to me, the best things are where you had a direction and then cool stuff happens along the way and the ultimate result is somewhere maybe in between.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a metaphor also for life.
Well, that's a big one that plays into the sessions that you and I have done together. So now we've been doing these poetry scores sessions here at my studio. And at other studios. We recently took a trip to St. Louis to do one. And, let's talk about that one for a second.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking me to Wash U, your alma mater.
Right.
Their electronic music center is fantastic. Some great synthesizers. I'm a big geek for, vintage stuff like that. So,
and that's where I started. That's where I started. I'm pretty spoiled that the first things I got to mess around with was an ARP 2600, an ARP 5200, I think is the big one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the Moog, a full Moog modular.
Right.
Stuff like that.
How cool is that?
It was amazing. And then I think we had the Mac SE, and we had Turbo Synth. That was our first digital synth in there, which was a really cool one. Still a very cool sound. But yeah, so that put us in a studio there, and then we made some decisions around how we wanted to do that session. So the songs began with poems that, in this case, Chris, who wrote the poems, was also singing.
Right.
And we had musical ideas that had converged with those.
Right.
So then we'd go in with that much, a sketch of a song. And we decided to do a no headphones session. Right. And all acoustic.
Right. That was an exercise because it forced me out of my normal mode, right? Because I'm not an acoustic guy.
Right.
I'm also not a singer, right? And I'm not a lyricist. But basing what I'm playing based on lyrics, which are often pretty abstract in this instance, more beatnik poetry type of a thing. But pulling musical things out of that, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun just to put yourself in a different situation.
Yeah, yeah. And then, it is a lot of fun. And yet at the same time, both of us, like all of us, we're all bringing our artistry to a session. And that means you get invested and you get caught in your own ways, right? We all do. And you know me well enough to know that there's Lidge being Lidge, in a session. But but it reminds me of what you said earlier about if you're just out in the vacuum of space, you don't know what to do. But if you've got that rock there, you can push off it. And I feel like that's when we play guitar together or with the other musicians or against the vocal, that becomes the opportunity to find the things to navigate musically within,
Right. Yeah. And, that relationship, I mean, that's what it's about. That is the harmony, right? And ultimately, harmony, I mean, you're trying to create synergy. You're trying to create something that's bigger than the sum of its components, right? And that's where the magic is.
Yeah, indeed. Now, what else comes to mind? I mean, there were some fun microphones. Anything that stood out to you?
Oh my goodness!
That was our buddy Adam Long. And shout out to you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam, for introducing us to microphones so expensive that we'll probably never see them again. But honestly, the thing that kind of sticks out to me, probably the cheapest microphone there, the Beyer M160, the ribbon.
Yeah.
It's that, Jimi Hendrix guitar mic, man.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what we were using on your guitar for quite a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
And on me for a number of them, and then I think a Shep's condenser too.
Yeah.
But now you were coming up with some really cool sounds. Do you remember some of the unusual sounds that you created on that session?
Well, so I brought an acoustic, but I didn't want it to be exactly like your acoustic, so I put high-strung, Nashville high-strung strings on it.
Because I was playing a standard six-string.
Exactly.
tuning.
So for those that aren't familiar, the Nashville high-strung thing is basically taking 6 strings, the highest 6 strings of a 12-string, and putting them on your 6-string, right? And the idea there is you could play something that would essentially be like an octave up, but in your regular position chords. But in this instance, it wasn't folky chord playing. I was playing slide on it.
Yeah. You also had this cool bow.
Oh, right. Yeah, we should give a shout out to those guys if I can remember what it's called. It's like a little handheld bow.
Yeah, with bow hairs on either side.
Right.
So you can bow the upper or the lower string
called.
in between them.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'll look it up while you're chatting. But talk about like coming up with sounds with that.
So that was not a new thing for me because I also play an instrument called an erhu,
the
Chinese
Picasso.
That's
guitar
it, the Picasso.
bow.
Picasso's awesome, guys. You gotta give them some love.
I gotta get one of those too.
Think of Jimmy Page with his bowed, shenanigans. But this is practical to use on an acoustic guitar,
right? Exactly.
And it's a much shorter bow,
and it goes in and out of the sound hole as you're playing it, right?
The way I do it, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever learned the proper way to do it. Just do it the way that I do it, but kind of like the way that I learned to play the erhu. It's this Chinese instrument.
Right, another one you brought with
you. Yeah, another one I brought with me. That's a bowed instrument, and I definitely do not play it the traditional Chinese way, but I just play it my way.
Native Instruments now brings you Complete 26, loaded with creative tools for songwriting, production, mixing, and sound design. The big news is the return of the legendary Absynth 6, with evolving textures, cinematic soundscapes, and experimental sounds designed to spark new ideas fast. Contact 8 continues to be the center of the complete ecosystem, with built-in tools for chords, phrases, grooves, and arrangement to help keep you in the creative flow. With Massive X Guitar Rig 7 Pro, Session Guitarist Instruments, Play Series sounds, and premium tools from Isotope and Brainworks, including Ozone 12 Elements, Complete 26 gives you everything that you need to produce in any genre. Plus, Native Instruments continues expanding NKS integration with complete control keyboards and machine hardware. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Yeah, it's such a cool sound. It sounds like when you play the erhu, the recording of it already sounds like we're sampling it off of an old tube radio,
right.
or transistor
radio.
radio.
Kind of high-end, kind of a
It was
drone.
like no low-end, no high-end.
Oh,
it's
no.
just like all mids. And
I think my ears tend to
pre-filtered.
go towards spiky, bright sounds. Or not bright, but like, mid-range.
And to that point, that brings up the great question about recording our ideas in the studio. So like when you have a Chinese erhu and it's got that sort of spiky edge to it, that can be a great when you contrast it with a ribbon mic, something that is more mellow, you know?
Yeah, the contrast, that's something I'm always preaching. Put something bright with something dark.
Yeah.
Have holes in your arrangement for other things. This could be a spectral discussion, or this could be an arrangement discussion, but having a little this and a little that so they can play with each other. I mean, on your faucet, you don't just turn on hot, you don't just turn on cold, you mix it, right? Well, it's the same thing with sound.
Right. Nice, the faucet analogy. I love it. We're getting our flow on now. How's that for another entendre? Okay, so going back to creating the music for the film, you writing again in the studio, the elements of like making these simple decisions around like, okay, I've got this scene. Okay, I'm not going to do, what was the term you used for?
Duple meter.
Duple meter.
Right.
Duple meter. Oh my God, you got to make that pedal, dude. Not using duple meter on this one. And which again, a reminder, that would be a rhythmic quality that harkens to a pace of a walk or a run or something like that. And then also,
or a waltz would be like a three-legged person.
Right, exactly. We had a three-legged dog once. So, or shying away from full chord shapes on guitar and thinking more like, okay, what's my scale that I'm going to build within. And so you're sort of like breaking it down into individual instrument elements that can then layer, right?
Right.
So talk a little bit about that. And then also, what about the historic music that has been already gone into space? Did that help inform some of the stuff you were doing?
Right. Well, that informs everything for me because that's just how my mind works. I'm always comparing things from multiple disciplines, right?
Yeah.
And that's usually the best way. If you want a new color, think about your favorite smell. You know what I mean?
Right on.
It's that type of thing. But as far as like chord structures, kind of get back to that, there's nothing more boring than just like strumming cowboy chords around a campfire for everything in a recording studio.
Right,
There's a time for that, and maybe it is the campfire, right? Right, it's the campfire. I mean, it's cool for that, I guess. But, I always appreciate guitarists that have interesting voicings and maybe bridge the gap between rhythm and lead. Now, I'm not the kind of player, I'm not a Chet Atkins guy where I can play the rhythm and the lead simultaneously, right? That's its own thing. It's like the guy's octopus fingers, right? I'm not that guy. But, there is something to be said to finding something that will go in between rhythm and lead and find those little nooks, the little cracks in the song that you can fill that space.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love about us sort of arranging as a band in the studio, and particularly just recording as a band in the studio. Yeah. It gives you this instant snapshot of how all these instruments are adding up together. Yeah. And then you can go play it back. You play back that first take in the control room, and you're like, oh boy, all right, let's let me rethink a little bit of this part I'm doing, and stuff like that.
I love having real players to play with, though. Yeah. Because when you have real relationships, real people, and other people playing parts in real time where you're reacting to each other, it's a relationship. That is music.
It's also fun as shit.
Right. But then from my background of mostly recording a lot of stuff for soundtrack type things, where it's just me record myself and just the logistics of that, you end up sort of overdoing it, right? You end up playing every instrument for every part of every song, so you end up arranging with your mutes. Right? You end up arranging by pulling faders down.
It's almost like you fill out the spectrum of possibility, and now the last performance is the act of removal.
Exactly.
Deletion.
Yeah. And that's its own art form, and that's a fun thing to do also. But it's so much more enjoyable to, in real time, watch people see where they're leaning, see what is he thinking, reading their mind a little bit and then reacting to that. It's that improvisational part of it that's beautiful to me.
What do you think when we're in the studio with the band playing together, where are the places that we're likely to overlook something that if we just, one more step in that direction, and it might improve a band session?
It might be hard to generalize for everything, but I would say probably just where I've felt like maybe I've contributed, found the space to try to feel is just in putting something more in the mid-range sonically and more into the melodic middle ground, if that makes sense.
Right. Because oftentimes these particular songs that we've been doing together, I might have written the basic chord structure that goes underneath, which is really fun in the writing stage, but in the recording stage, sometimes I'm like, oh man, I'm always stuck playing chords,
Right.
But that's just the way it happens, and then the beauty of it is when you come in and join, you're able to like find these. Yeah.
And it's easy for that to just be, okay, rhythm and lead. That's not really my thought. Maybe functionally it becomes that, but my thought process is not that. It's more like, okay, here's this, I'm going to echo that up here. Or back and forth, I like it when we trade solos.
Right, I love that too.
And what's really cool is when we finally get into doing the Allman Brothers dual solo. That's the peak moment.
That is a good one. That's always good. The Allman Brothers are always welcome. Yeah. I almost said the Almond Brothers. Maybe it's getting close to dinner.
The Almond Joy.
Yeah. So when I think about a band setting, I think there's inevitably like what's funny to me is like you always have this combination of excitement from the moment and thrill, but then an overly loud, self-critical voice too that carries along. And we're never quite satisfied, which I've learned to accept because I've finally realized that if we were satisfied, that means we wouldn't push forward. And if we weren't pushing forward, we wouldn't be artists making new stuff.
Yeah. And from my experience, when you're satisfied, you won't be the next morning.
Right. There you go. There you go. There you go. So and it's inevitable that there's an element that says like, if we could just maybe do some rehearsing beforehand. Yeah. So like pre-production is always a really valuable thing. What do you think is the balance for that though? I mean,
it depends on the material, right? But for me, it's just don't always do anything.
Right.
Always make it based on the project, on what the piece of art is. Right. You should never do anything the same every single time. But I have had the experience of, working with a young band that had great material and it was time to go into the studio. But then it's kind of like, okay, let's do some pre-production so we know what we're going to do when we get into the studio and we kind of understand what the process is going to be. And working with that same artist, doing that or not doing that, I saw differences, right? I saw how much better it went.
Yeah.
But in that instance, we're talking about pre-written songs, traditional songwriting. It was just more a matter of kind of arrangement type things and, how we're going to pull it off if they wanted to, say, do certain parts live versus to a click, that type of thing.
Yeah. Now, you have also assembled a band together with our buddies Brian Murphy.
Yeah.
And name of the drummer again is?
Graham.
He's fantastic. And you guys played a show at the Sweetwater not too long ago, which was really fun.
Springwater, yeah.
Oh, excuse me, Springwater.
So easy to confuse those.
I actually had it written down right somewhere, but I still messed it up.
Yeah, knowing that I was about to do some more soundtrack work and I didn't want to do it all just by myself. I wanted to put together a core group of guys to kind of start doing some soundtrack stuff. Yeah. I was like, a great place to start for me, and just kind of part of my love of music, is to start off playing some surf music with some guys, and kind of get the cobwebs out, right? And it's like, let's just book a show and make ourselves do it. And it was so much fun.
Were you guys doing all covers, or were you doing writing originals too?
It was both. Yeah, it was both.
But you had some great sounds up there. Maybe talk a little bit about that. You would do things like where you're in the middle of a thing, and then all of a sudden there's this huge, like, the sound of space just enters. It seems to fade in and out.
My concept was a sound tornado.
I love it.
So the concept was 3 amplifiers, one dead center behind me, one on each side, right? And there's tremolo back and forth, and then there's echo, there's delay going this way. And you time it right, it creates this whirlwind, nice. Right? It doesn't always get timed right and everything, but it sounds cool regardless. But if you get it just right, there's a real 3D quality to it. Yeah. I like, using Leslie sounds. It's based on traditional surf music, but sort of with, I wouldn't say progressive, but sort of going on the outskirts of what traditional surf music was.
Now, do you remember what pedals you would have brought to a show like that?
Sure. I mean,
or even the guitar.
Well, the first thing is the good old fashioned Fender reverb tank. The actual tank. Right. That's the sound. And then we're talking about tremolo, and harmonic vibrato is a term that's used for this particular type of tremolo. Something that Leo Fender designed in certain amps, the brown panel amps from the 60s. But I also really like a choppier tube tremolo, like the Vibroverb. I use both of those. I'm a real nerd on tremolo. I also really like some of the other choppier ones, like the Vox Repeat Percussion is another one.
Yeah.
And they're all unique and different. But yeah, I love choppy sounds, but also like Leslie type sounds, squishy. I like the kind of stuff that.
But where do you get a Leslie sound from?
I was getting that out of a multi-effects unit. There's a little cheap Zoom pedal.
Oh, really fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'm forgetting the name of the
I feel
model.
I remember there was one, like, was it Hughes and Kettner that had a tube version tremolo or Leslie effect that was pretty cool too?
Yeah, there's a lot of them now.
Yeah.
I've been looking at real Leslies, but it's like, come on, man, you're not really going to carry that on stage.
No, but I've got one in the studio, and I don't know if we've even used it yet, but it's really fun to use.
Yeah.
It's fun to use. It's just, you got to mic it all up. If you record music, podcasts, video, or dialogue, the brand new iZotope RX12 is one of the most powerful audio repair tools you can add to your studio. RX12 now features AI-powered scene rebalance, letting you separate dialogue, music, and sound effects for incredible control in post-production. The new Stems view makes stem editing faster and more visual than ever, while upgraded music rebalance and dialogue isolate deliver cleaner separations with improved machine learning. RX12 also adds trim silence, helping podcasters and editors instantly remove dead space and speed up long-form editing workflows. Plus, rebuilt de-bleed tools and real-time processing improvements make cleaning up noisy recordings easier than ever. From restoring damaged audio to fixing podcast interviews, guitar tracks, vocal tracks, and film dialogue, RX12 is the industry-standard toolkit trusted by producers, podcasters, post-production engineers, and music makers worldwide. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. But it's great because, so Rockstars, if you haven't used a real Leslie in the studio, a Leslie usually pairs with a Hammond organ, and it's often connected directly. But then they make these guitar pedals that you can plug on the front end, and then you plug your guitar into it. Now all of a sudden you've got a guitar input to the Leslie, or you can feed, Pro Tools, you can feed background vocals or a piano mic into it. And that's like, that actually is how you can kind of get that Pink Floyd sound, like Metal is, it's
a piano through a Leslie.
Yeah, piano through a Leslie hitting a reverb or something.
Yeah, it's really not a complicated sound, but man, does it do something, It really, really does. So anyway, playing some surf music, kind of getting the group of guys together to kind of see if we can then build something to continue into the soundtrack of the film a little bit further. But there's a lot of space connection to surf music, which people don't really get at first. But a lot of the early NASA guys were big surf music fans because of the time period, the early 60s, right? And a lot of these guys were—
And they're on the beach.
Well, exactly. And they kind of disappeared into what they were doing. And by the late 60s, they kind of come out and culture had moved on past the surf music era, but they'd been away from people. It was still kind of hanging on for them.
Oh, interesting. Because they'd literally out in space or in training for so long. Yeah,
just in training for so long. So they kind of missed the whole hippie thing.
What do you see now? What do you must have some awareness of current space program and current, youthful interest
so like
in music and stuff like
the Artemis mission, which is about to happen, and hopefully, fingers crossed, 2026, they'll finally make it back. They did a press junket thing, and one of the questions was like what their favorite music was or what music they're going to bring with them, and they all had really different ideas. There's one guy I remember that was talking about he liked chiptunes. I was like, yes, that's my guy.
Cool. That's cool.
That's my guy. But and one of them was like Metallica, and another was like pop music. So that's not necessarily like every astronaut listens to space music, right? But there is a certain development of spacefaring culture that gradually happens with every single mission, with every single film, with every single impact that happens. There's certain things that the public take away from that, right? They see how these guys dress. Like you see Charlie Duke with his cool blue jacket.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought him up. I was just going to ask you because you recently did an interview with Charlie.
Yeah. It went great, right? So
and who is Charlie Duke?
Charlie Duke was the 10th man to set foot on the moon. He was Apollo 16 astronaut, and he's a good old Southern boy, right?
Wow.
He's from South Carolina, and he's a firecracker, man.
And you got to shake his hand as well?
Oh, yeah. He invited me and my wife to his house, and we did the whole thing.
So, Rogers, how often do you get to shake the hand of somebody who's set foot on the moon? That's what I'm saying.
Right. Still got the moon dust on. Yeah.
And then wash my hands up.
But, he has such a personality. He was up there on the dune buggies, when they had the rovers, and he was going up big hills there on the lunar highlands. And he's up there doing the lunar Olympics. He's literally leaping for joy. And then he does this number and falls over, right? And they're like, that wasn't very smart, Charlie. He almost ruptured his suit. But point is, this guy was living it up there. And it wasn't just planting a flag. He was doing some hard science, but he was also able to feel what it's like to literally leap for joy on the moon as high as he could.
That's amazing, man.
Right?
Cool story.
But anyway, you start seeing things from the classic astronauts of, say, the 60s. You see things from, say, the space shuttle era and what they wore, how they act, little traditions that happen. Yeah. And gradually you get the development of a spacefaring culture, right? Now, I'm advocating that we pay attention to this because I think we have the opportunity to shape it into something really positive and something really cool. Because if we're not careful, it'll just end up being the culture of tech bros, right?
Right.
But there is the opportunity to shape it into something really cool. What's practical application of this? Okay, the Space Force, which now is a thing.
Yeah.
Their uniforms.
Right.
They just ripped off Star Trek. Did you notice? Like the emblem and like the jackets with the buttons, they're straight up ripping off Star Trek.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
So, it's things like fashion, it's music, it's culture. It's culture.
Industrial design too.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we're at the point where we've had enough history that it's time to start paying attention to what spacefaring culture is. So we have the opportunity to shape it. So
I'm pulling up a web page, just glancing at. It's not really screen sharing, but I'm looking at it's like a double button jacket with buttons going down the side with wings over on one side.
And look at their emblem; it's straight up ripping off Star Trek.
That's awesome.
Which I'm not necessarily saying is bad, but they could have dug a little deeper.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, so what gets you really excited about what's next here with music, space, all of it, and what do you want to do next?
Well, what I want to do next,
and of course, we're doing this in advance of when this will come out, so you may have done a lot.
Right. So, I want to get this documentary out, and just to define what I'm calling documentary, it's really more of it's multiple things. So there's the featurette, which is already out. You can go watch it right now.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Concert to Cosmos.
It's really great.
It's the full length, which will be fingers crossed in
out by now.
Well, it'll be at least in film festivals in 2026, and then there is the series. Right. It's ultimately, I'm looking at a series of approximately 10 episodes to fully tell this story. Because it's so much material, I couldn't tell it in one full length. So the full length it'll be in film festivals will essentially be, here's the two sides of the coin, so you get a full idea of what this subject matter, what is astromusicology, what is this, what are the two sides of this coin of art and science through the perspective of music and space exploration, right? So it tells a little of this and it tells a little of that. You get a full picture. But then it's time for the actual series. And the series is really kind of where the ultimate goal is to be able to make that a thing.
What about the arena tour?
Yes. Make it like X Games.
Oh my God. We'll just we'll show the movie and you guys just do the full band soundtrack live. It'd be amazing.
Right.
That's going to be fun. Very cool, man. Very cool. I didn't mean to stop you though, if you were continuing on that.
No. I mean, that's the thing is I want this to be an ongoing series. And I want to develop a community for people who are also interested in not just astroculture, which those communities exist, and not just audio engineering or music, but where these things cross over.
Yeah.
That crossover is where my interest is in presenting that, because anytime you can find two disciplines and find where they cross over, I mean, that's a magic place to be, right? It's something in my job as a director of career services at SAE. I'm always advising students. It's like, whatever your background is, and then whatever this thing is that you're trying to get into doing, see if you can figure out where they cross over.
Yeah. Lean into it.
And that's your special spot. That's where you start.
Yeah.
Right?
Like lean into your uniqueness.
Exactly.
The more you it is, the better.
Right. So, think of Bell Labs back in the day. You had a research facility, pure research, where you had scientists and you had researchers from all these different disciplines all under the same roof. And it wasn't, hey, you have to make this, you have to make this. They just let them kind of develop whatever they wanted to develop. So they would talk to each other and, oh, you know this, I know this. And they would come up with all these unique ideas. And so much of our technology now literally came out of Bell Labs because of that freedom of crossover disciplines, being able to kind of see what they can do together.
Yeah. What are there any particular ones that come to mind? And then also I'd love to pivot into you sort of telling us a little bit about the history of electronic music too, if you want.
Sure. I mean, as far as what all RCA and the Bell Labs rather developed, I mean, pretty much anything telecommunications.
Yeah.
So foundational. It would be here all day, kind of go into all of that. But from my perspective, I'm always relating it back to music. And it comes down to all of these devices that they created for military industrial complex type purposes that ended up in the recording studio.
Yeah.
Think of something as simple as the transistor, right? Okay. It's, the 60s, Kennedy just, gave us the challenge to make it to the moon by the end of the decade. Okay, we're going to have computers for navigation for this.
Yeah.
Computer at that time was a room full of vacuum tube gear that was massive. What are we going to do? Well, first thing you got to do is shrink the electronics, right? Transistors. Okay.
Did they try and take tubes up to space at first?
No.
They're just like, it ain't happening.
It ain't happening, yeah. Right? So next thing you know, we have transistor radios. We have fuzz pedals. We have transistor organs.
Yeah.
Right? It became the sound of the 60s, right? So you talk, the sound of Dark Side of the Moon. It's a fuzz pedal, man. It's a fuzz face.
Well, and then also you've got like William Dilley and Spectra Sonics. He's creating the circuitry for the Minuteman missile program, which is a space program right here as well. And
perfect example.
Yeah, like the Spectra, I think then Bill Cheney will correct me on this if I get it wrong, but the 101, the first, preamp, it's all designed for like high specs development so that it can apply and be reliable in a military setting.
Yeah.
And then the C610 complementer too. I think that was all designed as part of that. But the
gotta get me one of those.
Another one that I think of is the Federal compressor. Now that was a tube compressor that we would use. We use those with the Living Things in their studio. That's when I was first introduced to it, and that just came out of military background. Then it became this like cool. I think it sounds awesome in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff it's also interrelated that it's hard to even start or to end that conversation because it just goes so deep. I think of bands like Silver Apples. They were an electronic group from the 60s. They actually played at the moon landing, like official party in the United States. They were like playing this spacey music, but they're making sounds made of largely military surplus oscillators and audio equipment. That was designed for different purposes, but they're making space music out of it, right? And then on the other side of the pond, it was David Bowie that was playing to the moon landing.
Yeah.
That's what really made his career over there was he had the #1 song at the time, and it just so happened to be out, and they happened to play it during the moon landing, and There you go.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro-sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. So
Space
Major
Oddity.
Tom or Space
Oddity.
Space Oddity was written. So it wasn't necessarily written with the moon landing in mind so much as it was written with the space missions, the Apollo missions.
Yeah, it was just the backdrop of what all had been happening.
Yeah,
because you have to think, Apollo 11 was not the public's first exposure to the space program. It had been happening all throughout Mercury. It had been happening through the Gemini program. And then even Apollo, we had in 1968, at Christmas time, we had Apollo 8 that went up and first went all the way to the moon. They didn't land, but went all the way to the moon and did that great television broadcast to the public for the first time from the moon. And it was kind of a healing moment during such a tumultuous year, right? 68.
Was that one where when they went around the dark side, they lost connection for a minute or something? Or am I making that up from some movie?
I mean, yes, they would have lost connection, but I don't think that's the one that you're thinking of. You could probably think of Apollo 13. So they had that. And then it happened again on Apollo 10. Right, the exact same situation, and the public had been exposed to this. So, moon landing happens in Apollo 11. People always talk about how the public lost interest, like pretty much immediately after that. Like you have the biggest pinnacle moment, and then all of a sudden, people just aren't interested anymore. But you have to also remember they'd been really getting a lot of this before Apollo 11. It wasn't just it started at Apollo 11. But also, what's funny is the follow-up to that, Apollo 12. There's an astronaut named Alan Bean, and God bless him, he's an artist. He's fantastic, but he may have ruined it for everybody.
Oh, no. What happened?
Well, he had a series of mistakes. They had a television camera, just like they did on Apollo 11, but he accidentally pointed it at the sun and fried it, so people couldn't see what was happening.
It's like singing into the wrong part of the microphone and shooting your video,
Yeah, so he burned out the camera so people couldn't see it, so if they were interested, they couldn't see it anyway. And then the film camera, there was a part, I can't remember what the actual device, it was a part of it that he actually dropped, and in zero gravity, he lost it, couldn't find it until the end of the mission, so he couldn't shoot that either. So it was just a missed opportunity to get footage.
So it was just radio signal, it was just voice.
Right, so
sound.
there was just a whole lot of nothing there.
Right.
And then Apollo 13 was a big flop, right? Because they barely made it back alive. So two real big missed opportunities there. So by the PR was pretty bad at that point. So then Apollo 14, they're like, okay, we're going to bring back Alan Shepard, the first American in space from the Mercury days. We're going to bring him back and show we can write the what's happening, and this is dependable again.
Fascinating. All right, well, so now share, when you've met some of these astronauts in making the film, what are a couple of just fun stories that come to mind? Anything like something somebody said, or
There's a lot of them, but one that is foundational to the film is Charlie Duke taking country music to the moon. Right?
Yeah.
Now, Stu Rusa was the Capcom. He's another astronaut, and he was best friends with Charlie Duke. They're both big country music guys. That's kind of a bonding thing for them, is listening to country music, right? Well, Charlie Duke is friends with a DJ from Texas who makes this tape for him to bring up with him, right? And it turns out it's this custom-made. It wasn't just a tape of songs. It was people like Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner and Chet Atkins and Buck Owens and Merle Haggard making live recordings in the studio and talking to them between songs, like an actual customized program of entertainment for them, right? So these guys are really geeking out on this stuff on their way to the moon, right? Okay, So you have that as the backdrop. These guys love country music. They're really into it. Okay. Now, back up to Apollo 13. That's 16. But back up to Apollo 13 for a second. If you remember from the movie Apollo 13, Ken Mattingly, the guy that got measles, who did he get the measles from?
I don't remember.
From Charlie Duke. Oh, he got the measles from Charlie Duke, right? So he was livid. He was not having it, but there's nothing.
Because Charlie went up. But he couldn't go because he had the measles.
So what happens is they end up like, okay, you can still go up, but not on this one. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to go on Apollo 16. Well, who's on Apollo 16? Charlie Duke, the same guy that gave him measles, right? Man. So while they're both consummate professionals, you can imagine there has to be a certain level of
a little bit of tension, right?
Tension, resentment.
Just like going into the studio, dude.
Right? There's a little potential tension, right? Okay. So with that in mind, on their way to the moon, they're listening to all this country music. Well, it turns out Ken Mattingly is not a fan of country music. And on that recording, it's funny because Dolly's like, I don't know what you're going to do if these other guys don't like country music. Well, he didn't. So whenever the modules disconnect from one another, the lunar module's going down, which has Charlie Duke, who's actually getting to go to the moon. Ken Mattingly doesn't. He's having to orbit around and wait on him. As soon as they undock, what's he do? He changes the music.
That's hilarious.
But it's not just they changed the music. They talk about it with Mission Control. It's Stu Rusa, the Capcom, who likes the country. He's like, what happened to the good music? And he was like, it's been 3 days of, and he uses an acronym, basically means they have to do this number, right? They have to turn 360 as the corkscrew all the way as they go, so one side doesn't burn up in the sun, the other side doesn't freeze. Yeah. He's like, it's like been 3 days of doing that while listening to country music. I'm ready for something else.
And when they're doing the corkscrew, you can feel it a little bit too.
Yeah, right? Exactly, right? So it's like the idea is he's being seasick and having to listen to this, cowboy music, right?
Do you know what he put on when he switched it up?
Yeah, he put it on the Modern Jazz Quartet.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So he had sophisticated taste, and you could tell by the things that he was into, because he's talking about, fine dining. He's talking about these. He had sophisticated taste. So point is, you really get a feel for the humanity of what's involved by paying attention to their music, right? Yeah. You get their personal taste, but you also get relationships. You get a lot out of this stuff.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Now, the other detail that, correct me if I'm remembering this wrong, but, every ounce of weight matters. Yeah. Big time going up on these. So for them to take a tape of music up there, that tape doesn't come back with music on it. Is that right?
Right. So the idea is that tape is something that you're going to use for mission notes, but it doesn't weigh anything extra to pre-fill it with music.
So
right.
Cool, man.
Now, they didn't always actually fill it with mission notes. And honestly, I think a lot of times they didn't, but it was there for that purpose. Yeah. But it didn't weigh anything extra to put music on it. And that's where these guys would start taking up these mixtapes.
Yeah.
Right.
The rock stars, that's the takeaway for you. Just remember, to everybody in the world, it doesn't weigh anything extra to take more music, for there to be more music in your life. Or something like that.
Right, yeah.
I love it, man.
That music's heavy. No, it isn't.
So some of those tapes came back and they've got both mission notes and the music on it. And have you actually heard?
I haven't heard any with the mission notes. Most of these are in museums. Yeah. One of them is here in Nashville at the Country Music Hall of Fame. They have Charlie Duke's tapes. And they were kind enough to let me and my videographer in to inspect these tapes and get some footage of them and talk to the curators about those tapes.
So we get to see that in the film.
Yeah, and you can go to the Country Music Hall of Fame's website right now and just look up Apollo tape, and you can stream it and listen to it. You can listen to Dolly Parton, making jokes with the astronauts and
that's so cool, man. That's so cool. Okay, groovy, dude. Well, this is amazing, man. What an awesome blast of an interview doing this with you. Let the rock stars know more. Well, let me ask you this question first before we even get there. I'm going to take the Wayback Studio machine, and we get to go back in time, and you find young Kev, and you say, listen, dude, I know you're interested in space. I know you're interested in music. Here's the single most important thing you need to know. Take off your helmet for a minute, Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day.
Patience. Just wait. Good things come to those that wait, man. It's a simple thing, but you just have to be patient. we had an exercise in my creative writing class in high school. And the exercise was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you going to be doing? And I already knew. I was like, I'm going to marry my girlfriend, Rhonda. We're going to have a son, name him Ian. We're going to have a dog. It's going to be a beagle. And we're going to move to Nashville, and I'm going to be an audio engineer.
Wow,
I knew it all. Where I really got it wrong was how long it's going to take.
Right.
It took way longer than 5 years. But I had the perseverance to stick it out, right? Patience. Once I finally, in my after college, my wife and I, we went to South Korea and we taught English over there for a year and a half. Cool, and kind of did, and it was really her passion. I loved it too, but it was really her idea. It's like, okay, now let's go to Nashville and you can be an audio engineer and we'll follow your passion for a little bit. Cool. So we do that, and I go to SAE, and my wife gets a brain tumor. And it was like, oh, you got to actually quit school and you got to get a job and you got to do this. So it was like, oh, man. So it was 7 years of saving money and trying to get my life straight to be able to make it back, and a lot of just perseverance to finally come back, finish my education. And then, my enthusiasm and how hard I worked to get there showed. So they were really quick to try to hire me after I graduated. It was less than a year before they hired me because I'd made an impression, because I wanted to be there so daggone bad, right? Because it's like 7 years of like pining to get back, right?
That's amazing, man. Yeah, what a story. I'd forgotten about that. But I mean, you had such a major life shift. Like you were on course to do a thing, and then something happened, which is like, that's not going to happen anymore. Yeah. But yeah, you still found a way to pivot that into all your interests and be able to do the thing that you love doing. So it's a great takeaway for us. It really is.
Oh, appreciate that.
Yeah. So what a pleasure having you here on the show, dude. Really fun. I'm glad we finally got to do this on video. And then Rockstars, I want to remind you that we have a link right in the show notes so you can immediately go watch Concert to Cosmos, the
acoustic evolution of MSI DFAT.
The acoustic evolution of MSI DFAT. And what's the thing you called it? You called it a something at.
Oh, a featurette.
A featurette. A featurette.
A featurette. It's just a little taste of what's to come in the Songs of Apollo full-length and series.
Yeah, and your goobers, right? Chocolate covered peanuts, man. They're my favorite. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you for doing this. And then where can the Rockstars go find out more about
songsofapollo.com?
Okay, great. And then what if they're interested in coming to take a tour at SAE Institute?
Oh, sae.edu. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, call us up. Go to the website. We'd love to show you around. If you're interested in education in pro audio, it's a fantastic option for a few reasons. One, it's an accelerated program. It won't take you 4 years.
Yeah.
Two, it's a hands-on approach. You get to book your own studio time, right?
Yeah.
We don't just assign you studio time. You're able to book it and use it whenever you want.
It's a great sounding studio. You can hear some of that in the movie.
Right. An SSL studio, right? And, it's an opportunity for people that are project-based that want to do their thing to have a place to do it, right?
Yeah,
so
big time. And it's not just any SSL, right?
Oh, it's a SSL 9000J, but it's not just any SSL 9000J. It's Whitney Houston's SSL 9000J.
Call the hotline, baby. Awesome, man. Well, dude, what a pleasure being here. Rockstars, if you enjoyed this, if you were listening, please come over to video. We're on YouTube now, and you can come see what we're talking about. And then you can also just click through to the link and watch the Concert to Cosmos featurette after this as well. And hit the like button and subscribe so you get more of these. Dude, thanks for joining us here. You rock. Oh, before we even go, do you have a question for the Rockstars, something that they might answer in the comments? Anything you'd love to know?
I mean, what does space sound like to you, right?
It's a good one.
We've talked about kind of my concept, but not everybody's concept is the same. Like, what's an effect or a sound or song that makes you think of the cosmos, that makes you ponder? When you ponder the cosmos, what does that sound like to you?
Yeah. I wonder even if you have a favorite band or something that, that comes to mind for you. I know which one comes to mind for me. It's the theme song to Space 1999. It's the opening sequence.
Deep
that just
cut.
blows my mind, man. But, you can also, like, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just go find that link and paste it in the comments, I think. I think that's a good way to share it.
There you go.
I think that works.
Yeah.
We'll find out. All right, dude. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's go get some dinner.
Let's do it.
All right. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our fantastic sponsors who make this episode possible. Isotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Spectra 1964, Grace Design, and Picker. Check out the Spectra 1964 website for factory direct budget-saving prices on the STX 600, 100, 100D, and BBDI DirectBox. Check out my studio profile on the Picker app on iPhone or Android, and remember to take advantage of our special coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off any plugin purchase at isotope.com or nativeinstruments.com. And don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. If you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors using the links in the show notes below. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They're going to help you make your best record ever. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because it's a great way to help support this show. And I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko and Daria Tupesis. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.